All right. Why don't we get started? Scott, did you want to say a few words?
Yes, thank you, Anne. My name is Scott France. I'm the Executive Director of the Montgomery County Planning Commission. I just want to welcome everyone and thank you for taking the time out of your day to join us for this hour. And hopefully you'll get to learn a lot about the exciting work we're doing. Um, a comprehensive plan doesn't come around often, but basically every 10 years. So this is definitely an exciting time for us. And I can honestly say in my 20 plus years in some capacity at the Planning Commission, this is definitely the most dynamic time in that period in terms of what we do and what's happening in our county, in the world at large. So for no coincidence, change is in the subtitle of our comprehensive plan that we hope to adopt next year, a comprehensive plan for a changing world, and that is exactly, I think, what we're dealing with. I'm going to hand it over to our team to talk all about the draft visions, goals, and strategies that have been worked on for quite some time now, and we have an extensive advisory committee has helped with that process. 40 plus members of the county of all different backgrounds and experience. So it's really been a great team effort to get where we are now. And I'll just, before I hand it over, I'll also reiterate, which I'm sure you'll hear about plenty, the continued opportunity to hear from the public and for the public to learn about this. Our Engage Montco site is a great place to go where you can get all the details on these visions and goals, as well as learn more about the plan in lots of different ways. And then also next week is our event at the Ambler Theater on Tuesday from 4 to 6. You'll hear a lot of similar information from this presentation today, but we still welcome you to come out. I think it'll still be interesting and a chance to talk to staff and anyone else. We'll also be celebrating our 75th anniversary of the Planning Commission. So there will be cake, if nothing else, that might be reason alone. So anyway, thank you very much for coming. I'm going to turn it back over to Anne.
Great. Thanks, Scott. You're seeing the correct thing, the presentation, and not the notes. All right. Well, then let's get started. All right. Why can't I make things go forward? Huh. Why do I do that? Okay. So, introducing Montco 2050, a comprehensive plan for a changing world. For those of you who have been following along with the Planning Commission for some time, you'll know that we already have a comprehensive plan. We have a plan called Montco 2040, which was adopted in 2015, but the municipalities planning code, the state's legislation that allows for us to be a planning commission in the first place, requires that we review our plan every 10 years. And for us, that becomes an opportunity to rewrite our plan. What we are proposing for Montco 2050 is that we'll have 7 focus areas. If you have read Montco 2040, you'll know that we had 3. We are upping it to 7. These include jobs and the workforce, government and utilities, places and land use, housing, conservation and the environment, transportation, and people and health. And that really covers a lot of different focus areas and information and topics that we are wrapping into these 7 areas. Why focus on change? Well, aside from the fact that we are surrounded by change all the time, we discussed for a long time how we wanted to organize this plan and ourselves as we worked through it. And change was the thing we kept coming back to, that a lot had changed, not just in the 75 years we'd been a planning commission, but just in the 10 years since Montco 2040 was adopted. Our communities have certainly changed. This happens to be a photograph of the Conshohocken waterfront, but you'd never know it from the way the Conshohocken waterfront looks now. The way that we shop and procure goods has changed a ton. People don't need to necessarily go to the mall anymore to get back to school clothes or a gift or some other item. You can have it delivered to your front door. And that is a huge change in our environment and our transportation network. The COVID-19 pandemic changed the way that we learn the way we work, that we could even do something like work from home en masse is a huge change in our surroundings and again, how we get around and go to places. So change became the thing that we started to think about a lot. Why we plan for the future? Well, sometimes we get caught off guard. The pandemic is a really good example of that. So it's important for us to really think strongly about how we might be as a county in 10 or 20 or 30 years and what projects we might need to get us to the place where we want to be at in the future. And that really becomes the focus of this comprehensive plan, what we want to do and how we want to get there. Our previous plans and studies are really the foundation for this work. Like I said, we have Montco 2040, our current comprehensive plan, and that itself leads to offshoots and other projects that help us really focus in on the county's current needs, whether it is how to walk and bike safely here in the county, how we want to open our trail system up to a more diverse set of users, or how we want to work on housing and make it more attainable to people. Our previous comprehensive plans and local projects feed into this as well. It is really a continuum of work that we refer back to over and over. Where we're at in this general timeline of things, I already mentioned that we have been working, Scott mentioned that we've been working on this for a while. We have a set of background reports and we have done some initial public outreach and we, as he mentioned, have a website and an engagement and outreach platform called Engage Montco. We are really in the middle of this. We have an advisory committee that's been working alongside us as we make our way through this process and focus in on what matters most to not just this office, but other county departments and the general public. We have draft maps and other items that are available online to view, and we are hoping to have all of this wrapped up in a nice, concise package by sometime early in 2026. If this is the first that you have heard from us on this comprehensive plan process, welcome. We have been doing a lot of public outreach and engagement this whole time since we started working on this project in 2022. We have done a survey of county residents. We've done presentations in a lot of different ways, both as focused audiences to some of our local planning commissions and elected bodies of elected officials, but we've also gone to public events where we are able to interact with the public, and we really tried hard to get out and talk with people we might not have otherwise had an opportunity to intersect with in the past. And with that, I am going to turn things over to Chloe to start talking a little bit about some of these 7 focus areas that we intend to include in this plan. We're going to run through each of them and we're going to talk a little bit about what we know, the things that we researched and learned during the creation of the trend reports, what we heard from the public as we did these outreach events, what our vision for 2050 is going to be, and how we're going to get to that vision, the projects and implementation steps that we think will help us get to a better place in the future. That being said, this is really a very small sampling of what is going to be in the plan. There's only so much information we can fit onto a slide and tell you about during a lunch break, but think of this as a sampling of what is to come. With that, Chloe Moore.
Thanks very much, Anne. And thanks everyone for attending today. Appreciate you taking the time to take a look at this with us. So we're going to go through each of our 7 topics that we're organizing this plan around. And the first one is people and health. So we started with, well, what do we know about people and health? What does the data tell us? What can we understand about this? So we know that the population of the county continues to increase, or growing county, and not only increasing in general population, but also increasing in diversity in all kinds of ways. One data point we noted is that 16% of households in the county speak a language other than English at home. That doesn't necessarily mean they can't speak English. It means that they are more comfortable in their home in another language. We also noted that older people are making up a larger portion of county residents, and that a number of households headed by someone over 65 struggle to meet their basic needs with their household income. Along with that, generally food insecurity, as in not consistently having enough to eat, is increasing in the county. And we noted in terms of health and people that there's a robust park system, both of county-owned parks as well as municipally owned and state-owned parks, that's very popular and more heavily used than ever before. So going out into the community, we asked on surveys, we talked to people at pop-up events. What are your issues related to people and population and health? What do people want to tell us about? So we heard a lot of really positive things. People love Montgomery County, they love living in Montgomery County, and that there's a lot of great things about the county. We did hear that finding services can be more difficult for people who have limited English or people who have disabilities, finding the right services, finding what they need. And there's also a desire to have our parks and open spaces and other places have great programming and events that meets a variety of types of people's needs and interests. So we took what we learned from the data and what we heard from the public, and we created this vision for 2050. This is our aspirational vision. What would we really like to see in 2050? What do we want the county to be like? So we want Montgomery County to be a place where all residents are respected and embraced, where people feel like they belong, lead fulfilling lives, and can participate in their communities. We'd like for everyone to have the opportunity to achieve and maintain good physical and mental health, and that we have wonderful recreation spaces that are appealing, welcoming, and accessible. So that's our vision for 2050. Along with that, we have many, many goals, strategies, and projects. There's a really long list. This is a very small sample of 2 of them that we're giving you just as an example. How might we get to that vision? What kinds of things can we do to try to get to that wonderful vision that we hope for 2050? So one of them is to make sure there's great places for people to socialize, to visit, to meet neighbors, and to have things to do. So encourage and support libraries, community and cultural centers, even cafes, arcades, but also parks and plazas with being great places for the community and having events and programming that welcome folks. And then we want to ensure that people have access to healthy food and healthy lifestyle choices. So thinking about how county-owned land can support that. And I'm going to turn it over to Austin to go through transportation.
I was muted. Good morning, everyone. Yes, let's talk about transportation focus area for Montco 2050. Starting with what we know that since the Great Recession of 07, 09, about 15 years ago, the traffic counts on our major roadways have been decreasing as opposed to getting worse. In terms of the fatal crashes on our roadways, they've been standing consistent about 40 per year, even with the efforts to make the roadways safer. As a reference, with traffic safety and crash data across the country, about 40,000 people per year are killed in car crashes, including pedestrians. So that just puts that into context. We don't often think about that as drivers, but that is a concern for our transportation visions. With public transportation, ridership on SEPTA still below the pre-pandemic levels and hasn't recovered. And our trail network has grown over 100 miles of off-road trails across the county. So we have a growing trail network. Slide. From our surveys and our research, we heard over and over again, in person and online, there's a big demand to have other options for traveling around the county outside of just driving. People want more walkability, more bikeability, and more public transportation available to them. People want to have the infrastructure maintained in good condition, our roads, bridges, and trails and sidewalks. They want more sidewalks. And in terms of transit, it should be more frequent. The bus stops, we've heard that people want to have seating and shelters from the elements while they're waiting for the bus. There's a lot of love for our trails. We heard frequently people who use the trails daily or regularly really love being able to do that. They want more trails in their communities. And of course, lots of complaints about traffic congestion. Next slide. In terms of our vision, our transportation vision for 2050, we envision Montgomery County's people and goods moving reliably and with decreased congestion. Montgomery County will be a place where everyone can travel safely. Montgomery County will have high quality, equitable, and affordable travel choices. And the county will continue to expand our multi-purpose trail system to be accessible, well-connected within and beyond our borders, and regionally recognized. Next slide. So how do we get to that vision? We want to work and partner with our Department of Transportation, PennDOT, to enhance our technology at on our roads and highways. Things like ITS, Intelligent Transportation Systems, that will prioritize public transit and move traffic more efficiently. And we're going to work with our partners to promote connectivity, make it easier to bike and walk, and enhance our transit systems, and allow more realistic options for getting around without a car, which is what we've heard that people really want and need. Now I'm going to hand it off to, who is next?
David.
David.
David Greenberg's next, so he's going to talk a little bit about conservation and the environment.
Thank you, Allison. Yeah, so Montgomery County has, many cherished natural resources, farmland, open space. So there's about 45,000 acres of preserved open space in the county currently, which is important, obviously for recreation and tourism, but also boosting health. And, of course, comes with a number of environmental benefits. Farming in particular continues to be an important part of the county's economy and landscape and its history, frankly. We have a farmland preservation program, and with the help of that, we've preserved 200 farms currently, about almost 11,000 acres of farmland that's preserved in the county. But as climate change has persisted, the impact from extreme heat and storms and occurrences like flooding, these are becoming more and more make it more and more critical that we address these issues, so we're able to really preserve these areas. And so that makes it more critical for infrastructure projects like stormwater runoff, addressing stormwater runoff to ensure those projects are in place to help mitigate that. Next slide. So what did we hear from the community in terms of conservation and open space? So obviously, not surprisingly, residents really cherish these spaces, from woodlands, lakes, and farmland and parks. And it's a top priority. And open spaces can encompass a number of different sizes, from these in smaller urban areas to the larger tracts of woodland areas that I think a lot of people associate with open space. We've also heard issues with in terms of livability, quality of life. So some people mentioned access to fresh food can be challenging for residents of certain incomes, especially for those without cars. And stormwater management, preserving woodlands are kind of the most important benefits of open space, as well what others said as well. And we also heard concerns about flooding, which is and other storm impacts that need to be addressed. Next slide. So what's our vision for this in this category? Well, the county will have open space and environmental systems with ecological and economic benefits. We'll continue to preserve farmland and provide support to the farming community, and we'll be effectively adapting to the impacts of climate change. And we'll have made progress toward improved ground and surface water quality, improved watershed resiliency, and the reduction of impacts from floods. And once again, how do we do this? Well, Really, in some cases, fitting standards into development that's going to continue to occur, supporting building green building practices by incorporating green standards into the projects, and addressing our own land, county-owned land, with tree plantings and native plant meadows, and then encouraging our municipalities to do the same thing. And finally, identifying and mitigating locations where flood events, are those areas that are vulnerable to floods, and addressing that so emergency responders can carry out their duties competently. And next, I'm going to hand it back to Chloe.
Thanks, David. Our next topic is government and utility services. So all kinds of things that government and utilities provide for the community. So what did we find out when we looked into this? What does the research and data tell us? What do we need to understand? There's been a trend towards privatization of municipal or municipal authority owned water and sewer utilities. So we've seen a number of privatizations in recent years. We noted that each resident of Montgomery County is responsible for about 7 million metric tons of carbon dioxide equivalent into our atmosphere. But uptake of electric vehicles is high in Montgomery County, the highest rate per person, second highest rate per person in the state. We noted that about a third of county households struggle to meet their basic needs and are relying on, many of them are relying on public services to assist them. And then our public safety and emergency services are provided by a wide variety of different agencies, some of which are struggling to fund and staff their operations. So when we talk to the community about these issues, here's what we heard, that addressing issues with aging water and sewer infrastructure is a high priority. The many different organizations and websites that provide social services make it confusing for folks to find what they need. There are concerns about the capacity, the utility and infrastructure needs of our population that is continuing to grow over time. And we heard that people are generally very happy with their public safety and emergency services folks that serve their community. So we took those pieces of information and we integrated them into a vision for 2050. Where do we want to be in 2050 in terms of government and utility services? We want to have really wonderful sewer and water service, modern, updated, efficient, effective services that can meet the needs of the population. We want people to be able to find information on any kind of government or nonprofit services that they may need. We want to transition to renewable energy, both in government operations and everywhere else. And finally, we want the communities to be safe and wonderful with great public safety and emergency services. So how are we going to get there? We're going to try to increase coordination and communication with all of our water and sewer service providers, no matter who owns the utility, to ensure the coordination amongst the provision of services and land use policies. We want to continue work to try to get the Norristown Dam to produce hydroelectric power that can power potentially government facilities. And we want to do whatever we can to use new technologies and new strategies to increase communication and coordination to ensure that the constituents, the residents of Montgomery County, have access to government and have information they need. And I'm going to hand it back to Anne to talk about housing.
Thanks, Chloe. Housing has been a big topic here at the Planning Commission lately. Always really has been a big topic because even though it is not something that we have any direct control over, it's something that affects all of us, and it's hard to ignore the fact that housing prices continue to go up. Whether you are a homeowner or a renter, costs are outpacing inflation and typical household incomes. To that end, more than a quarter of county households are cost burdened. They are paying more than 30% of their income toward housing costs, whether they're choosing to or not. Nearly 50% of our renter households are cost burdened as well. And when you're paying that much money for your housing, it means that there are fewer dollars left behind for other things, which are also going up in price. Less money for gas or a transit pass, less money for food. So the fact that food insecurity is going up is not unrelated to the fact that housing prices are going up too. Most housing units built over the last decade have been attached or multifamily units. We have a limited supply of land that people can build on. So at some point, the housing that gets built here will continue to get denser. And last but not least, the number of people experiencing homelessness in Montgomery County is increasing. It may be less than it had been in prior decades, but more and more people find themselves without a permanent place to live. What we heard about housing as we reached out to you and the general public who answered our surveys and intersected with us as we were out and about, people want to see more housing get built. Although I will say up front that we got differing opinions on this, and you will see that there are some conflicting bullet points here. We wanted to make sure that we included a little bit of everyone's input, not just something that would neatly tell a good story for all of you. So people do want to see more housing get built, housing of different types, more accessory dwelling units, different types of housing that can accommodate people's different needs. We definitely heard that housing is expensive from a variety of people in a lot of different ways. People felt it was hard to find an affordable and safe place to live. People want more opportunities to own a home and build wealth. We heard from people who wanted to see more homes for people who had modest incomes so that they're not spending 30% and more of their incomes on housing. At the same time, so here's where some of that conflicting information pops in. People wanted to see us leave this alone, that housing prices should be left up to the market and that there really wasn't a good reason for us to interfere with what is otherwise taking place. And people wanted to see more solutions to address homelessness. For 2050, our vision for housing is this, that we will have a broader variety of housing types, sizes, and configurations to meet the needs of households with different incomes. That will have accessible housing units for people who are of a variety of different ages and abilities, that the county's housing supply will include an increased number of new homes in places where we want to see growth, near transit, as infill development, as well as homes in the areas that we will show in this plan as being our growth areas. And then last but not least, we will have emergency seasonal shelters as well as supportive housing for people who need a little bit of extra help with being able to live independently, whether that's temporary supportive housing or permanent. So how do we get to that vision? The Planning Commission hopes to be able to create model ordinances and provide technical assistance to municipalities who want zoning ordinances to allow for missing middle housing, for accessory dwelling units, adaptive reuse, and other strategies to promote more affordable homes. We'll help provide guidance on creating codes that promote adaptive reuse of underutilized or vacant institutional, industrial, and office uses, places that we think could house new places to live. And we'll continue to guide the construction and operation of supportive housing facilities, something that we have been doing all along. Okay, places and land use. I am turning this back to David.
Thanks, Anne. So Montgomery County has many places that are historic in terms of their either local or even national significance. These are building structures and sites that really provide great opportunities for adaptive reuse projects and cultural and educational events. We have a lot of great downtowns and village centers that are diverse and can and certainly do attract businesses and visitors. So very viable, vibrant downtowns. And the general view, and I think a lot of these hit this is strong downtowns are walkable, green, safe, and have a mix of uses that keep it relevant to the changing market. In general, though, as it stands, fewer jobs are located in our downtowns, and they tend to be in the more traditional suburban or auto-oriented areas. And in terms of what how the public feels, kind of similar to our open space and our preserved land, they really cherish the older historic character, support revitalizing older boroughs and downtown areas, reusing historic buildings, and really just encouraging the development that not just simply preserves places, but is in a location that provides residents with easy access to their needs. We also heard from folks that there's too much development in the county. So, kind of an array of even those who may have supported saving historic structures. And public gathering spaces, local businesses, and communities, should cater to a number of different groups with free activities. And our visions for places and land use are, so in 2050, the county will recognize and celebrate its heritage through the preservation of its historically significant sites, art, landmarks, architecture, and places. We'll have distinctive places that offer a variety of activities, attract people to spend time, and support social connections and a sense of belonging. And new development and transformative investment in Montgomery County will be focused where infrastructure already exists or is planned. And how we get there, a lot of it is really working and supporting our municipalities. So working with them on regulatory tools for preservation, creating model preservation ordinances, adaptive reuse ordinances, encouraging mixed use places or a mix of uses and places where there maybe wasn't traditionally that, in office parks, malls, shopping centers, and supporting municipalities with the creation of ordinances to provide shade, benches, waste receptacles, and streetscaping to really help bolster that sense of place that would provide necessarily shelter from the elements as well. And I'm going to turn it over back to Austin.
Thank you, David. Now we're going to go into a discussion of jobs in the workforce. Montgomery County's downtowns are vibrant places. They're cherished places that have a mix of uses with more residential healthcare and interactive activities going on all the time. The county's job sectors, we know, are shifting. Jobs in information, healthcare, and social assistance, and professional and technical services are the sectors that are slated to grow the fastest. More than half of jobs in Montgomery County, we know, are held by people who don't live in Montgomery County. More people commute into the county than out of the county, even to Philadelphia to work. And the average county resident is highly educated in Montgomery County. More than half of people age 25 or older have a bachelor's or master's degree. So we know that to be true as well. Slide. What we heard from our surveys and outreach about jobs in the workforce, people want us to help support our small businesses in our downtowns, to keep them great places to shop and dine and get services. We heard that there's a need for job resources for older adults and people with disabilities. We heard inflation is making it harder to afford things. Things are getting more expensive. And residents are frustrated that working one full-time job isn't enough to make ends meet anymore. And we also heard a need to make it easier to get to job centers for people who don't have access to a private car to get there. We need more transit and other ways to get around. Which leads us to our vision for jobs in the workforce. Our visions are Montgomery County will continue to be a desirable place to start and grow a business. It will have a strong economy that is resilient to shocks and changes in the market. And the regional workforce will have the skills and will be well positioned to fill open jobs with employers here in Montgomery County. So next slide. How do we get there? How do we get to that vision? Our strategies and projects will promote the retention of existing businesses. We'll give them the supportive services and information they need to be successful. We want to raise awareness of those services, the tools that are available to small businesses so they have what they need. We want to update services and that can provide and meet the changing needs of businesses in the county. And we need to promote educational options for post-secondary education at places like Montgomery County Community College and other institutions so that we can have a workforce that's trained and prepared to take jobs that are open in Montgomery County. And now I'm going to hand it over to Chloe for our final thoughts.
Thanks very much, Austin, and thanks again to all of you for joining us. We are going to have some time for questions and comments, but we want to make sure that you know that although these have been worked on a lot, this is still all in draft form, and we are accepting comments on these vision statements and goals and strategies that we've developed. So these are all available on Engage Montco, and I hope maybe many of you are already familiar with Engage Montco, but if not, I hope that you will make an account there and share with your friends and neighbors, and so that anyone can comment on the full text of our vision, goals, and strategies at that link that I just provided. This was just a sampling of the implementation items. So the full text is in that PDF or at that link. And we can now take any kind of comments, questions, or thoughts on this topic that any of you have. Okay, we have a first question already. Thank you very much. What is the state's plan for 422 and how does it fit into the county's traffic and transportation goals? I can give a general answer to start, which is that one of the main roles of county government in Pennsylvania is as a coordinator amongst various other agencies, including local municipalities and state agencies and others. And so we're always in the process of dialogue with state and regional agencies and about plans for roadways and many, many other things. So that's an ongoing process. Specifically, PennDOT does not have any imminent plans for 422. In terms of the long-term plans, I'm going to let Matt Popek comment on that, who's just been promoted to be able to comment.
Hi, everybody. This is Matt Popek, Transportation Planning Manager here at the MCPC. 422 is a very large and very complex highway throughout the southern and western part of the county. And there's a couple of different items that are ongoing. The projects near the Pottstown area, the pieces in Montgomery County are fully underway for construction. There is still the segment, the Pottstown bypass portion that goes into Chester County that is on PennDOT's long-range plan. If the discussion is about the rest of 422 and either repaving or reconstruction of the highway or any potential future widening aspects, PennDOT hasn't officially made any decisions on how that's going to proceed yet. So we will mostly defer to what Chloe was discussing in terms of the county using its long-range plan and 2050 efforts to continue to seek the best way possible to address how 422 can serve the needs of everybody that has to use it every day.
Thanks, Matt. I appreciate you chiming in. And I did make the assumption that the question was about like long-term reconstruction or widening. So I'm glad you also clarified on the ongoing project near Pottstown. Okay, we have another question. Oh, sorry. Anne, did you want to chime in on that one? Go ahead, please.
No, I am the least knowledgeable about that sort of thing, but I was going to say I got some questions in my inbox from Joel. Okay. Joel, did you want to actually ask them in person?
Oh, sure, sure. So, I put it in the chat. So, my name's Joel Trotter. I'm a resident of Springfield Township. Just and briefly, like what, from the county's perspective, from a planning commission perspective, what are our competitive advantages? What are the things that make us special that we can leverage? And on the flip side, what are some of the more acute challenges and crises that will need to be addressed in the immediate or medium term?
That's a great question. Exactly the kind of thing we think about with the comprehensive plan. And I wonder if we want to do a quick round of like, for the people on MCPC staff who are here who want to answer, like what's one of the county's sort of strengths or advantages?
Yeah, I've got one.
Austin, you look like you got one. Okay, what?
Yeah, one of Montgomery County's, great question, Joel. One of Montgomery County's strengths is that we have more regional rail service, more public transit service from SEPTA, and including transit in Pottstown Park than our neighboring counties outside of Philadelphia. That's a great advantage that we have for transportation alternatives. And our smaller boroughs are very walkable. That's another advantage. A lot of our communities have really good bones for working with development and transit-oriented development projects. Those come to mind first for me.
What you got,
Of course
Scott?
they would.
I'll jump in. Good answers, Austin. For me, the thing I jump to first is just our diversity of places, of everything. Like, I love this region, and I can look at any county and point to some great things in different places. But when I look at Montgomery County, I see pieces of all of that. I see everything from the incredible rural places and agriculture that we have, as well as the dense urban centers where people can find places to live that meet walkability needs, or they can raise a family, have good schools, and it reflects our job situation as well. We have more jobs than residents. We were kind of the first suburban county to hit that marker a couple decades ago. And more people actually commute out of Philadelphia into Montgomery County than the reverse, which also was a sea change in that. So I think all of those things are what bode well for us. Not that there aren't plenty of challenges that come with it. In fact, I think the most acute challenge is really funding. To be honest, everything that has an answer or has ability to make a difference often does require money. Not everything, but that does. And we have a state, a commonwealth that doesn't always meet those needs, or gets caught up in all the local government levers and state representation that sometimes make it more difficult than it is in other places to put money into the problems that we need to address.
I have a couple. Oh, go ahead.
No, you can go
right.
first.
A couple in terms of the strengths of the county. I think that on average, residents are pretty highly educated and medium to high income. I know we mentioned a number of times that there are a lot of households that are struggling in Montgomery County. We can't forget that, but I think compared to some of our neighboring counties and other areas, the economic status of residents and the educational level of residents is high, which puts us well poised for something that Scott already mentioned, which is job growth is very strong. Businesses want to locate and want to hire in Montgomery County. And then the housing demand and housing price situation is a sign of success to some in some way, because there's a lot of wonderful communities where people really, really want to live. There's great walkability and great school districts and growing diversity that many residents are seeking. And so that does drive housing prices up, which is a minus, but the great communities that we have are a lot of the reason for that.
Okay, so what I was going to say is that Scott kind of stole my answer, but that if you take a deeper dive into the proposed draft goals and visions and potential projects that we see ourselves tackling down the road, there are a lot of big ideas in that document. If you were paying close attention, you might have noticed that we included trails, for example, in the transportation section, not as an open space asset, but as a future transportation asset, that it could be a way that people got around all the time. We've got projects and ideas in this document where we want to make sure that people feel welcome here, that there are places for people to be out and about and accepted in their own, in their own skin, and that, these are not necessarily traditional planning ideas, but that we are able to put these ideas out there and have a supportive board of commissioners, I think, is really important. I think that we will have a document when this is all done that is a robust thing that we can be proud of and that the county can be proud of as well.
I was going to echo Anne, who echoed. Yeah, well, basically, to Austin and Scott's point, just the boroughs, the built environments, and just kind of the diversity of built environments, from older inner suburbs to frankly very urban or urban-like industrial boroughs, and then to our more rural townships. There's a lot here, and just a lot to kind of build on. Not necessarily pun intended, but yeah.
And how about acute challenges the county will be facing? Anyone? Scott mentioned a couple, but I think if we want to go into that a little bit more.
I'll jump in.
Anyone?
I
Okay.
think one of the biggest we've heard, which is the trend across the country too, is that rising cost of housing being really expensive to live in Montgomery County. And whether you own or rent, people have just told us over and over, there's the frustration with housing. It's people who are owners and they're empty nesters talk about wanting to downsize, get a smaller home, and finding that they don't have that available in their own communities, but they don't want to move out of their communities for that house. So the lack of options. And then for adult children who want to stay where they grew up, not having any options there because the apartments are just way out of their price range. There's no easy way to find something within their budget without having to leave their community. So there's that squeeze there. It feels like there's just our residents are squeezed with limited options for housing. And homelessness too is a concern we've heard a lot about.
I would say a related challenge, and maybe it's half challenge, half benefit, that the county is slated to continue to grow. By 2050, we are anticipated to gain an additional 108,000 new residents. So that's a good thing that there is demand to want to be here, but at the same time, where are we going to fit 100,000 new people? That's a huge challenge. Just trying to wrap our heads around how we're going to grow, where we're going to grow, especially because not all of our municipalities are well positioned for growth. They're rural. They lack water and sewer capacity. They would like to stay that way, and we respect that. That our growth has to take place in the places that it makes sense. So trying to ensure that our communities stay the way they want to be while still accommodating new residents who desire the chance and the opportunity to live in Montgomery County, I think will be our challenge going forward.
Yeah, one that hasn't been mentioned, but that we've talked about a lot internally is the impacts of climate change, in particular heat and flooding. So we get more and more heat days, which causes all kinds of challenges, and also more severe storms, more rain in general, and more flooding. Those are really difficult to handle and deal with, and are going to be a big issue. We are doing a number of stormwater plans, other things. Anyway, so, and then Anne touched on this, but traffic and transportation issues. There's a lot of people saying there's too much traffic. We want to be able to travel in other ways, but it's not safe, or the bus doesn't run very often, or we want rail here. Those are challenging problems to address. We are working on it and we're going to do our best, but it's challenging. And then finally, just the impacts of artificial intelligence and other things that we don't even know about yet on our jobs and economic sector, but also on any sector. We are trying to build a resilient community to anything that might come down the pike, and we'll just see if we manage it. That's a long answer to a broad question. So thanks again, Joel, for that. Okay, well, there was another question, but Anne, do you want to say?
Oh, Elizabeth
Mhm.
D'Arcangelo mentioned that we noted constituent concern navigating human and social services across the county, and that we should keep her office, the Office of Community Connections, in mind, and how they can connect to and help residents understand their mission. So that is a really good point. Community Connections exists for that purpose. If you are in need of some level of county services, or maybe you're not even sure what you need, but you don't know where to get them, the Community Connections office is an excellent place to start. They're there to answer questions, point you toward resources, and get you the help that you need. We actually, Elizabeth, we talked about your office a lot when we were out and about publicizing this plan and asking people questions, because not everyone knows that this Office of Community Connections exists. So the more people know about what you and your office does, the better, I think, because you serve an important role here for the county. We've got a new, oh, you're welcome. I see that you typed in an answer. You're welcome. Any other questions from anybody? We're pretty much at the end of our hour, so let me just say, I guess I will echo everyone's thank yous and say thank you for coming to join us today at MCPC. We're glad that you are interested in the work that the Planning Commission is doing to assemble this comprehensive plan. Again, you are welcome to join us in person next week at the Ambler Theater, and that's Tuesday, September 30th at 4 o'clock. We'd be happy to have you, although you're going to get a repeat performance of this presentation. But we are looking forward to continuing to work on this plan and to share it with all of you when we're done. Oh,
Yes.
will this recording be shared? Yes. Yes, it will be.
Yeah, and I want to reiterate where I started with ways to continue engaging or learn more. That Engage Montco site, which if anyone else can throw that in the chat, but if you just type Engage Montco in Google, it should be the first hit. That
put it
is
in
where
there.
you'll see all the detail on these recommendations and a lot more than we had the time to share today. And also, if you have a thought or a comment, it allows you to input it right there. So don't be shy, even though we're nearing the end of a very long process. I think in comprehensive planning, it's never too late. Well, at some point it is, but then we'll start looking at the next comp plan. And so it is never too late. So anyway, we really do appreciate everyone who could come today and keep thinking about the county. And we've been working with us and your own organizations and residents.
All right. Thanks so much. We hope to see you soon.
Thank you,
Bye,
everyone.
everyone.